Welcome back, everybody, to the newest episode of the penpodcast.com. I'm your host, Matthew Harms, founder of Pen for Hire, where we offer premier ghostwriting and author coaching services, and the creator of the Pen Podcast, where we sit with authors, writers, writing industry professionals, subject matter experts, and all around interesting people. And today I have the pleasure of, as season 3 has been completely dedicated to, someone who fits all of those categories. I have with me today Dave Aron. How are you, Dave?
Matt, I am doing great. Thank you for the introduction and for your time today.
It is my pleasure. As I've been alluding to, the first 2 seasons, we were kind of all over the place, where if you fit any one of those categories, you got on the show, and not minimizing any of that. But season 3 has been dedicated to folks I know who have written their own book, and check all the other categories. So you have, within the last year, checked that last achievement, have you not?
I checked that last box right over my shoulder. You could see proudly displayed in my book, Mentorvention. And it was just a wonderful journey. So exciting. And I believe set the stage for a lot more to come.
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to get into that in a minute, but just for the a little backstory, tell everyone what you do for a living.
Well, in my day job, as I call it, the one that pays the bills, I am a marketing professor at Dominican University out in River Forest, Illinois, which is just literally on the Chicago border, just outside Chicago. So I'm a marketing professor, marketing researcher, academic marketing researcher. I'm an advisor to about 100 graduate students as director of the graduate program at Dominican. And as well, I am working to build a consultancy based on my philosophy and experiences with mentoring, which led to the title of the book, Mentorvention, a mentoring intervention. And that manages to keep me busy for approximately 24 hours a day.
So I was just going to say, your book's not actually on marketing. You've got a PhD in marketing and you didn't write about marketing?
Yeah. I no, well, first of all, a slight correction. Everything is about marketing. So and that's actually, I might be overstating. I've been calling this my white whale, to stay in the literary context here. And that is because I've got such an affection for the concept of mentoring. I am a mentor for some. I have been mentored by many. But with the day job as a marketing professor, I am, believe it or not, a little bit uh, restrained in that what I publish, academic publishing is not quite like book publishing. Maybe that's an understatement. But I'm expected to write about marketing things and publish in marketing journals, which is fine. It's not an unreasonable constraint, and it makes perfect sense. But as I've become a little older, what I'm kind of calling now um, and let me do my counting here. The fourth chapter of my life, my chapters I've divided into 20-year stages. I want to give back a little bit more. I want to write about mentoring. I want to really help people who need mentors, which is pretty much everybody, find the right mentors for them. So that white whale that I was talking about is how can I fulfill my professional privilege of writing about marketing as well as writing about mentoring. And one of the things I've learned as the cover of my book illustrates is finding the overlaps, not choosing the fork in the road, but finding the overlaps, finding ways to make them work together. And so as I wrote about in the book, and the book just gave me great freedom to explore what are the overlaps between marketing and mentoring. And there are a few from different perspectives. And so that's kind of how I'm building this chapter of my career, of my life, is exploring the overlaps between marketing, and that is helping customers find the outcomes that they seek, and mentoring, which is helping customers find the outcomes that they seek. And that's what I've been able to explore for the last year or so of my professional career.
I love it. I love it. And I mean, I kind of know the answer to this, but it's one of those things I have to call out because you mentioned it. the academic versus kind of the more creative writing process, right? You
Mhm.
obviously you can write. You had to do a dissertation to get your PhD. So talk us through a little bit like the different side of your brain you have to use when you're not worried about citations and all that good stuff that someone's gonna take a red pen through.
Oh my gosh, it is a constant struggle. Even when I was pursuing what we call the more creative activity of writing this book, it's the feeling that there is a price to be paid for being wrong. And by that, I mean, if you look at it from the academic writing side, there are citations, and not only citations, but you have to format everything in a very specific way. You have to, you are penalized. I'll put that in quotes, right? But you'll be called out if you share an idea that someone else shared already without citing it. And it might sound just burdensome, right? Can you have a creative idea? Yes, it's the way that you put these things together. So I'm still writing academic papers now in kind of a new in the mentoring world, and it's a whole bunch of literature that I'm not familiar with. I did not spend years in the boiler room learning everything about mentoring like I did about marketing as I was getting my PhD. And so if you're going to say something clever, people expect to see, well, who said that first? Where did you get that idea? Where's the citation for that? And that still holds true whether I'm writing about mentoring or marketing from the academic perspective. In my As I was writing my book, and I know you went through this with me, it's like, can I say that? Is it right? Did someone else say that already? And so, in a way that kind of keeps you on the straight and narrow, though there's so much, where's the absurdity, right? Is there a writer in me that just wants to totally cut loose? I save that for naming my chapters and my articles and my conference presentations. I'll get my puns in there, I'll get my wordplay in there, but when it comes to the article itself, um, you got to really stay in line, or else the you won't get published, or the editors will call you on it, or as happened to me in my graduate student days, uh, some older faculty member will call you out in front of everybody, which happened. That was a drag. I'm not over it yet. It was 40 years ago. Well, maybe not 40, 35 years ago, and I'm not over it yet. So,
And I think you and I have had this conversation, right? It's that shift in realizing when you're writing a book or you're writing a blog post or you're writing something that's more just from your own personal experience perspective, it's really a balance of art and science, right? The
yeah.
science being you still have to have sentences. You kind of have to make like there's got to be some legible format, but writing academically is much more science than art.
Well, you're writing about science, and maybe that's kind of the distinction. You There are academic articles that are fun to read, well, in my world, and some that are just a grind, also in my world. That you're reading the same sentence over and over again, saying, "I know what each of these words means individually, but when you string them together like that, I have no idea what you're talking about." And the words are bigger, and they're different, and they're specialized. I gotta remind. I'm going to be making a presentation at a mentoring conference in October, and my collaborator for this article, who's just a wonderful writing partner, and I were both very concerned because they check for AI as you submit the article, and so we were both very aware that, but we're not using AI. We're writing this, but the vocabulary is so limited. And it almost gets back to the fact that you're citing people on purpose. That's like, of course, AI is, or of course, the hall monitor is going to think, is this all your original work? Because you're citing so many other people. It's like, how do we escape? You're just in this loop, right? That you're citing people. And so the algorithm is going to say, wow, you're really citing a lot of people here. Is this your original work? So how you get around that to me is it requires some creativity.
I mean, when someone picks up your books, at least for me, if I'm reading an academic article that you wrote, I want to know. what you're telling me is true. I want the stats, I want the facts, I want the figures, especially if
Yeah,
I'm using it to make some type of informed decision. But if I read
right.
your book, let's just use Mentorvention, I want to know who Dave is. Like, I want to know what Dave's experience with mentoring is. I don't need Dave to cite what his boss told him 20 years ago. If this is how you remember it, this is how it happened, right? I'm not
Yeah.
expecting your boss from 20 years to pop up and say, nope, that's not the words I used.
It's a good thing too. Um, yes. So mentorvention is extremely real, with a little I don't know if fabrication is the right word. The word is escaping me, my PhD brain here. But I took a few liberties, but really not many. The names have been changed. Um, Ironically, not to protect the innocent. The innocent people, their names are in there with just a couple exceptions because they have the same name. No, it's to protect the guilty because again, I don't know if this is something being passed around in Columbus, Ohio, or Ann Arbor, Michigan, where so much of the story takes place. But it was an opportunity for me to to spread those creative wings a little bit, to tell stories that have been sitting in my head, being processed and reprocessed over and over again until I had a chance to commit it to paper and could step back. And even as I'm writing this, see, this is really how things are fitting together in my life. That it just makes a lot of sense through your help that I was able to organize those thoughts in a and to create the story that really has been my story.
Knowing again a lot of, maybe not all of the people I come in contact with who write books, but many have experiences like this where there are people who they'd rather not mention, or at least by name, because they're protecting the guilt. The guilty come back more than the innocent. How helpful was it to know that you didn't have to censor yourself throughout the writing process and that it would get dealt with at some point?
Um, it's tricky. Your advice I've heard from others is, just write, let the editors edit. But some element of my nature, whatever that is, it's like I am constantly editing myself. Not just for typos. Oh, I'm so annoying because I'm constantly going over the same line because my typing skill isn't what it was when I was in high school. So I'm constantly editing mistakes and editing what I said. And I know we had a couple of conversations. It's like, is this okay for me to say? And you gave me the freedom to say, yeah, why not? It did it happen? Are you afraid of getting sued? I mean, I don't think there's anything provocative enough. Well, there's some provocative things in there, but I do say some harsh things about people whose names have been changed because they happened. So I'm constantly editing myself, and maybe the next book will be closer to just letting it all hang out. But I'm naturally a fairly reserved person. I think people take comfort in dealing with me that um, I feel that I am trustworthy and trusted. And I think part of that is because I try to keep a level head. I don't know if that's anywhere close to the question or the point you were making, but that's my answer.
You know what? It works. So I want to jump back, knowing the amount of time and work that you put in this. What was your ultimate goal? Like, what was the kind of what was the aha moment where you're like, it's time to write this book. I've got to get it out. I've got to get it out of my head.
You know, I think when our mutual friend introduced me to you, I thought, well, I can't keep saying no to opportunities, right? Like opportunity may knock, but you've got to answer the door. And so I finally decided let's give it a try. And it's also I think it ties in also with my career goals as they've evolved. And there's this almost scale transition. I don't know what the right word would be from being purely an academic who thinks about consulting but doesn't do anything about it to stepping closer to where I feel much more comfortable, and that is the overlap between marketing and mentoring. And this is all kind of happening at the same time, it's like discovering that I actually do have a product to sell. Um, which even as I hear myself saying that's like sell, well, that's not really an academic thing to say. No, let's put it like this. I've got people I can help. I used to say I've got problems to solve, but in conversations with other people I've met on this part of my journey, it's like, well, problems to solve. That's what I've been telling my students in class for years. It's outcomes to realize. You solve a problem to realize an outcome. And I figured that it's time to solve a problem to realize an outcome. And the outcome is I want to, again, spread my wings, um, share what I have to offer with more people. And the book has given me a lot of courage to go forward with that.
How do people react? And maybe this is a twofold question because I haven't had a chance to ask you this yet. So let me take a step back. In the
Yeah.
professor world, it's pretty common, right? Like you guys are supposed to publish articles, or that's actually covered in your book. But as an academic, a lot of your peers are probably published in some way, shape, or form. How has it felt for you being, or do you feel like you're on a different level that you've actually published something just for yourself, not in an academic journal, not something that was required of your university or employer?
That's a great point. So this book was for me. And I think, and we've got a whole scorekeeping system on the academic side where if you publish, a peer-reviewed academic article, you get X number of points, and if you present at a academic conference, you get X number of points. And I think somewhere a self-published book is worth an amount. And I haven't even submitted it to be counted yet. I mean,
That
it's a
shows how
couple of
far
things.
from the realm of importance that was for you when you did this.
Right. Yeah, it was not to continue my post tenure counting system. It really was for myself. And so while I don't think I'm forsaking any great opportunities, like how could you not tell them about this? This also ties back to my concern that's completely in my own head of keeping the lines kind of clear. Now, a moment ago, I talked about overlaps, and now I'm talking about the fork in the road. And that's what I'm trying to overcome. And I think I'm becoming a little braver in doing that. And that I consider mentorvention to be, um, I don't know if it rises to the level of the unkept secret. A couple of my colleagues know this is important to me. A couple know that I wrote the book, but I've never really, if the dean knows, it's not because I told him. It's like, am I trying to keep it a secret? No, it's just like I'm trying to make sure that it no one thinks I'm not doing my job. How's that for insecurity? Um, People know I'm not stealing office supplies. I'm not using students to write my book for my thing as opposed to my academic research. But as the connections are, the overlap is becoming more clear, I am now a published academic author on mentoring as it applies to whatever, because mentoring is usually kind of an organizational behavior thing, human resources management thing, which is not the same as marketing. Um, so it kind of gets back to, um, there is an overlap, and that overlap might become greater and greater as I figure out ways that I'm comfortable with. But for right now, it's kind of like there's an overlap, and I'm standing in the middle, and it's okay.
I love that you used unkept secret because that takes me back to when you were writing this book, and it actually was a secret,
It was a
at
secret.
least from one particular person.
So absolutely. So my goal, because you got to have goals, Matt. My goal was to have this done in time to hand a copy to my wife on her birthday, which coincidentally is Christmas Day. So checking off a lot of boxes. And so, in a good marriage, you shouldn't have secrets. I kept this one a secret, and I think my goal was met because when I handed it to her, her jaw hit the floor. I mean, as close to literally speaking, uh, struck silent. What is this you just gave me? Because I've talked about writing a book for a long time, And a lot of people do, I'm sure, right? And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. They just talk about it. So I handed it to her and just completely blown away, which gave me some satisfaction. One, that I managed to keep that secret, and that she was so happy about it. So she read it. She felt like she was getting a great education in marketing of all things. Um, because maybe it's because she knows I'm a marketing professor. That is not a secret. And marketing and just maybe a little bit more about what I've experienced in the work world, because her work world is very different than mine. And yeah, so with your help, I met that goal and got the desired outcome. I couldn't have scripted it any better. Well, I guess I did kind of script it.
Hey, you drove. You drove. I was just kind of in the passenger seat telling you where to turn and when not to stop.
That's just like I drive in real life. So
Well, no one ever bothers to tell me to stop because I don't listen. But I will say for anyone who has not written a book, to keep that from the person you spend the most time with from knowing is not an
yeah,
easy feat because it takes a lot of time, right? Or discipline, but there's someone's going to wonder what you're doing in front of your computer unless, I mean, maybe you a lot of times we met, you were in your office, but even then, it's just one of
yeah.
those things that eventually someone's going to find out you're doing. So you did a really good job of keeping your nose
Yeah.
down and getting this done in what I like to think of as record time for someone where I didn't write their book because you got it done
Oh,
in under the 6 months where I guarantee I'll write a book for
yeah.
someone.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's it, your guidance was so helpful, and a lot of it was just because a lot of these memories, even from 30 years ago, 35 years ago, were so still so fresh in my mind. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because I use them in the classroom all the time. The class that I'm teaching now on healthcare management, one of the guest speakers, who is a chief marketing officer for a healthcare organization, is someone I met in, in my shopping mall management days. Way before academic, well, not way before, but before academics, my first job after school was as a marketing director for a shopping mall in Columbus, Ohio. The longest year of my life. Another fun lesson, it's not necessarily the work, it's the boss, it's the people around you. Had a difficult boss who is described in a lot of detail in the book, as is Carrie, who that's her real name. She was a guest speaker. She's moved so far beyond her mall management days, which were more miserable than mine. And it was just fun to reminisce with her and talk in front of my students who are there to learn about healthcare management, to talk about some of the things we created despite having difficult bosses to work for. And it's just so top of mind because it forms who you are. And it was basically, I'm sure there's an analogy that writers use, right? Cutting the wound and let bleeding on the pages. I would add the citation, but I don't know who said that. I'm sure I didn't make it up. But that helped me write the book quickly, that I cut myself open and bled on the pages, and then changed the names using spell check and stuff like that. But it was so exciting to me that it was hard to not talk about it in front of everybody.
Yeah, and put it on the pages. I mean, for anyone who thinks he's exaggerating, this was the job where they asked you to spray paint the grass, right? So it
That's
looked
right.
greener.
Well, among the things I was asked to do was spray paint the grass. Um, yeah, and take in 22-year-old me, was I still 22? I might have been 23. To go into this, imagine a maintenance room filled with maintenance guys, all much older, grizzled, um, tired of the rotation of kids in suits telling them what to do, saying, go to Sears and buy all the green spray paint you can find. I have a feeling they've heard things like that before, given the who the order came from. So, yeah, again, still really fresh in my mind, but it informs what I do. It informs. I do not want to be a boss or a teacher who tells people to do stuff like that. And so, just in terms of my teaching, we've all heard of busy work, of homework that seems to have no point to it. It's really important to me to make it clear to my students, this is why I'm asking you to do this. This is what the outcome is going to be. it's called scaffolding, right? This is you do this so you can now do the next step, so you can climb to the next step. And a lot of that is born from getting just ridiculous orders like spray paint the grass.
Yeah. So if anyone's wondering if there's anything worth reading in Mentorvention beyond the amazing things you're going to get, there are some stories too where you will not even believe they happened. I know they happened. I listened to them and heard them with true emotion. So
Oh, they happened.
this is about the
Um,
time where I tell you to tell everyone where to find your book, or how to contact you. I know you're looking to do a lot more speaking and take on mentoring, bigger role in the mentoring world. So let's use our last few minutes to make sure that you can tell everyone where to find you and how to work with you.
Absolutely. Well, I want to add really quickly, one of the chapters I read about something called You Own Your Origin Story, which is really what I'm going to call my signature offering related to mentorvention. And that's really helping people overcome imposter syndrome, realize that they deserve to be where they are, and they should find a mentor to help them get to the next level. And you can find Mentorvention on Amazon.com. Both the print version and a digital version are available to you. You can reach out to me at Dave at mentorvention.com. Happy to talk about the book. And You Own Your Origin Story, which is nicknamed Yo-Yo's. Still not sure if that's on brand or not, but easy to remember. And I that's really the goal of this chapter of my life, is to help people find the mentors they deserve to get the outcomes they deserve.
I love it. So if you're listening and actually, whether you think you need a mentor or you don't think you need a mentor, you need a mentor.
You do.
Or if you really are at that level, then maybe you're meant to be a mentor and you should reach out to Dave to see how you can connect, because there are tons of people who do need mentors. So Dave is out here doing some amazing work. He poured his entire life experience through the good, the bad, the ugly into Mentorvention. It is a recommended read. Find him on Amazon, reach out to him directly. We will put all of his contact information in the show notes as well. And as always, we appreciate when you support the show, support our guests, and we will catch you on the next episode of the Penn Podcast. Thank you for tuning into this episode with Matthew Harms of Penn for Hire and Dave Aron of, most notably, Mentorvention in this next phase of his journey.